Hey everybody, this is Gary with Vets Helping Vets Real Estate. Today I'm here with Steve at an open house and we were talking about the great benefits of the VA loan benefits. We thought we'd put a quick little video together to answer all your questions.
Thank you, Gary. So I'm Steve Paratoria with Cross Country Mortgage. And since we're going to talk about a few questions and benefits, I'm going to start by just saying some of the best features, which are 100% financing, lower than market interest rates, no monthly mortgage insurance, easier refinancing later, and the ability to get loans that are much bigger than the standard government loan limits for the area that you're buying in.
Cool. So one of the questions I always hear a lot is, I can only use my VA benefit once and then I'm done.
Yeah, a lot of people think that. So there's two ways to use it twice. The first way to use it twice is called subsequent use. The VA buyer, say, bought a home, lived in the home, decides to sell that home, buy a bigger home, and once that VA loan that we used, the first loan, gets paid off, you get 100% financing ability again for the second home. So we call that subsequent use. So that's using it twice.
Okay.
But also, we can use it twice. My branch just recently closed a loan in Windsor, which is in Sonoma County, for a pilot who didn't sell the house and pay off the first VA loan. He's going to rent that out.
Wow.
We use the rent that house is going to be able to bring in to help him qualify for a much bigger house for his growing family.
Okay.
And we got him a $1.5 million loan, which is over twice the government lending limit in that county. So that's using two VA loans and keeping the first one while getting a second one.
That's really cool. So that brings me to the other question I hear a lot is that, the VA loan limits me on how much I can borrow, so I can't buy enough house. So is there a limit to how much I can borrow with the VA loans?
There is no posted written limit.
Okay.
We look at what makes sense.
Okay.
But it's much higher limits than what we can do with other government lending like Fannie, Freddie, FHA. Like in that example that we funded at 1.5, that's over double what we would have been able to do with any other loan.
Okay.
So the lending limit, what we need to do is get a buyer approved. We look at their eligibility. That's their entitlement, and then what they can afford, and then we're able to give them a number that they can go shop with.
So speaking of that, I always hear too that I have to have really good credit to use a VA loan. Is that true?
Actually, no, you do not have to have really good credit. You can have bad credit. I've personally closed VA loans with under a 580 credit score. The reason for that,
580.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which most government lending, 640, 660, or 620 is kind of like a bottom of the line, and they won't talk to you if you have less than that. So with VA, we have what's called underwriter discretion. So we really want to help our vets who served, and we're going to do everything we can to make the loan work. There is, just like there isn't a high limit on the loan amount, there isn't a posted credit score. Now, we do need what's called a manual underwrite if it's below 580.
Okay.
Which, again, that's not a bad thing. That means that the underwriter is going to look at all the particulars, and the loan officer and the underwriter will determine what.
To find a way to make it work if they can.
Yes.
Okay. So that brings me to the next question I hear a lot is that there's way too many inspections required for a VA loan. I have to jump through all kind of hoops and red tape to make it work.
So there's the standard appraisal, which is basically required on every home purchase. And we want that so we can make sure that we're vetting the amount that our vet is paying for the house.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's just a pest report, which in my opinion is something that a buyer would want to do to make sure that there's nothing wrong with the home that they don't see.
No, I agree, yeah.
So I would say no, there isn't any crazy amount of inspections required.
Okay. That's good to know too. What I've heard too on the pest report, I've heard recently that it's gotten a little easier to clear that pest report than it has in the past. Are you seeing that from your experience on the lending side?
Yes, I will agree with that.
Okay. So I hear a lot too that there's a lot of cost involved with the VA loan, that I have to pay more cost, let's say, versus a conventional or FHA loan.
So the costs, the closing costs, are actually the same, or potentially could be less, because we can talk maybe on a different question on the seller credit. But no, there is a funding fee that is part of what makes the VA loan able to go to 100% financing.
Okay.
But the closing costs are no different than on any standard government loan.
So you brought up something interesting. What do you mean by the credits?
So credit is where the seller is able to give the buyer money back in escrow to help reduce their costs.
Gotcha.
So most loan programs will allow for a 3% seller credit.
Okay.
VA actually ups it to 4%, which is a benefit again to the VA buyer, because now we can not only pay all the closing costs, but if we wanted to, we can pay debt in escrow to help the VA borrower qualify.
What?
So yeah, that's crazy, right?
It is crazy.
So this is an example would be if you had a car payment that was on your credit report that was really high, and because of that car payment, you weren't able to qualify for the house payment, but you only maybe owed another, year on that car. So you could get the seller to pay that car off potentially, and then still be able to qualify.
The muscle car that my wife told me not to get, that we could pay off in escrow?
Exactly.
Oh wow, that's really cool.
It is.
Okay, that's it. Wow. So I just learned something too. So thanks, Steve. So what I hear too is that, can a surviving spouse use the VA loan?
Yes. So a surviving spouse can. The trick here is the vet who passed has to have passed in the line of duty or in service.
But okay, got it. That makes sense. So what I hear, here's one thing I hear a lot, but I never hear anyone take advantage of it. Are VA loans assumable?
So yes, technically a VA loan can be assumed, and this is something that we would require that the lender who's holding the note, holding the paper, they're the ones who ultimately get to decide whether this new person who wants to assume the loan that they had underwritten for someone else, you would have to jump through whatever hoops they want. But yes, technically a VA loan is assumable.
And the cool thing about that is, conceivably you could take over someone's really low interest rate.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know. So I think we answered a lot of cool information about the VA loan today, but just in case we missed anything, please feel free to contact me or Steve at our contact information here. And please remember to hit the like and subscribe button if you find any of this information useful. And also please post your comments or questions below. Me and Steve will answer any comments you have about the VA loan. Thanks for watching our video, and we'll see you on the next one.